Hi, everyone. Today, let's talk about the earnings calendar going into next week. Then we'll get into the charts. And no big surprise today on my results. Definitely got stopped out on that huge up move. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open and Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So getting into the earnings calendar, not a lot on Monday, pretty low key. But when we get into Tuesday here, we got Microsoft and J&J, Verizon, Texas Instruments, a couple of big companies in here, Lockheed, a couple of those defense companies, 3M, always an interesting one. Pretty big companies here on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we got some big players, Tesla leading off after hours. AT&T, IBM, those are always big companies, interesting to see. Boeing in the morning, definitely worth watching. Thursday, we got Visa and MasterCard. Comcast is always interesting. Intel, that would be a good one to watch as well. So big week, lots of different companies, lots of big companies that are going to push around the markets that are worth watching. And let's see what these earnings finally look like. Then Friday, we do have Chevron, American Express, Church & Dwight, one of those more consumer staples style company. Colgate as well, consumer staples. It'll be interesting to see how those are doing right now. Maybe they'll give us a little bit of an idea of what the economy is doing going into next week. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the S&P 500. What a day. Pretty huge rally. So we gapped up and rallied throughout the session right up to the 200 SMA on the daily chart. So big push, finishing up almost 2% on the day, just a little bit behind the NASDAQ. I definitely did not expect this strong of a push here today. I thought we might get a feeble rebound, fill the gaps a little bit, get back up into this zone, find some resistance at 392, maybe 394, 393.50, but this is definitely not what I thought was going to happen. And this definitely feels like a shakeout move. It looks like we're starting a downtrend, and this is your retrace, more of an entry. But the problem was I was already in the market, so that's a little bit tough and a little bit harder to sit through. You can certainly wait for the rejection and get back in. If this is a true rejection, should expect to take out the previous lows here down at 380, obviously going to be a strong level. But interestingly enough, here on the 4-hour, we are in a bullish structure above all of the major moving averages, above the 200 SMA as well. Momentum still pushing to the upside here on the MACD. And we did get that one uptick day here on the daily chart as well. So continuing with some bullish momentum. And if this breaks out, we start getting above this 400 level, that's definitely going to be something to watch for. I don't know necessarily that that's what's going to happen, but you never know after a day like today. That was a really strong push. Definitely did not see that coming. So now we have to be a little bit more open to some bullish ideas after the strength of the push that we had in the markets today. Moving over to the NASDAQ. After we finished yesterday with such a hard down push, I really thought that this was going to be more of a bottom. And we kind of rallied into the after hours here on the 15-minute. And then that level really held. So we came back in, retested it early in the session, and rallied from there pretty much throughout the session. Like I said before, I thought we'd maybe fill the gap, get into this 278 zone. Got up to 279. Thought we were going to get some resistance. Certainly did. Definitely hesitated there for a while in that area. And even sold off, retesting the 200 SMA on the 15-minute chart. But then after that, we really turned on the burners and went up another $3 from there. So huge push in the markets today. You can see multiple overbought conditions here on the 15-minute chart. Again, making me think we were going to have some kind of turnaround, but it just never worked out that way. But really, really strong push. Even got into overbought conditions on the hourly chart, which was a significant push from the previous low where we got oversold conditions. But wow, definitely not expecting that. At this point, like I said, on the SPY, we have to watch for this previous high. If we take that out, maybe this is a start of a more bullish environment. Or we come up to this area, test it, overshoot it, and then we get a true rejection. And we get some more directional bias based on what we see up at this 283.50, 284 level. And then we can make some decisions on how to enter the markets once again. Moving over to the Dow and the Russell on the 4-hour. You can see the Dow was not nearly as strong. We filled the gap just barely, couldn't get back up to the 200 SMA or really any of the other EMAs besides the 9 after we crossed through it early in the session. So looking very weak on the Dow, especially compared to the SPY and the NASDAQ. Pretty interesting. That's generally what you would want to see in a more bullish environment. You want the Dow to lag and the NASDAQ to be taking the lead, which is what's happening now. Looking at the Russell, similar here, filled the gap, didn't quite get as high as the NASDAQ. but it does look quite strong here. Momentum is building to the upside. Looks pretty strong above the 50 on RSI. The Dow did not get above the 50 on the 4-hour RSI, so still bearish here on the Dow, but stronger here on the Russell, as well as the SPY and the NASDAQ. Moving over to Apple, pretty big push here, just like you would expect, but it actually made new highs here. So Apple leading to the upside, making fresh highs at the close. You would expect resistance at 139, but who knows at this point? We got into the zone and retested it. We're coming in retesting once again. If we do get a push through here, then we definitely have to start looking more to the bullish side. Moving over to Tesla, as you'd expect, gapped up, rallied throughout the session. Pretty much no weakness on it. Didn't quite make new highs, so did not perform as strongly as Apple, but you would expect this to probably rally into its earnings, and I don't think they're really going to perform on earnings, but that's just some guessing. Moving over to transportation on the 4-hour and the daily, filled the gap, did not make new highs, so a little bit stronger than the Dow, but not as strong as the NASDAQ, so that's interesting. Transportation leading to the upside a little bit, which is again what you would want to see. It's getting higher than the Dow, indicating potential for more upside. So right now, everything is still pointing to a little bit more upside to come after the strong rally that we had. Moving over to semiconductors, pretty interesting. Did not make new highs, but it is in that same vicinity as the NASDAQ, getting close to testing those highs. If we do see semiconductors break out, that would be a pretty interesting take. Make a slightly higher high, and then we have to start looking to compare RSI readings. Certainly possible that this is the first dip. We get a double top and get that second sell-off. But at this point, you have to expect, based on the strength that we're seeing across the markets, that this is likely going to break out. And if semiconductors start leading the NASDAQ higher, that definitely seems like growth is going to be leading this market higher, at least in the short to midterm. Moving over to consumer staples and consumer discretionary. Interestingly, we are seeing consumer discretionary lead here a little bit. So it filled the gap, rallied up to almost resistance. Didn't quite make it there, but looking pretty strong. Whereas consumer staples did not fill the gap, pretty much closed unchanged from the open yesterday. Pretty flat in here. So not a lot of strength in consumer staples. And this is really starting to show a little bit more people moving into consumer discretionary versus consumer staples. Again, like we said before, this could certainly be a double topping style formation, and this could be the topping process. But this move up here was really aggressive, so you do have to respect that strength. Moving over to yields. Yields were really strong today, really surprisingly strong, especially considering the rally that we had. Usually when you have a rally like that, you would expect yields to be doing what they did from Tuesday into Wednesday with that huge down move. But really from Thursday morning into Friday afternoon here, we pretty much rallied pretty aggressively up to that 50 moving average. On the 4-hour for both charts, you can see in that zone where we tested the 50s on both levels. And really, you would expect stocks to go down as long as yields are going higher. Of course, this is still a bearish structure, but right now it seems like we're going to be breaking out to the upside and coming up and retesting this 360 level here on the 10-year and back up to this 4.25 level here for the 2-year. Of course, we're expecting another 25 basis points early in February at the FOMC meeting. So this should continue to rise into that area, and you would expect it to do so. But right now, it's not affecting stocks the same way that it has been over the previous year. Moving over to the dollar, not much to add. Once again, continues to stay within this very tight range, sitting at that 102 support level. Does seem to be slipping below that here just slightly. If this does break to the downside early next week, that should push stocks a little bit higher. You can see that we did rally early in the morning, and then throughout the actual session here, we fell. And that makes sense since stocks were rallying throughout the session. Dollar was falling throughout the session, but if this 102 level continues to hold, and we do see that break higher early next week, then we should expect the down move to continue and possibly break the previous lows. Moving over to JNK here, you can see rallied really aggressively into the end of the session as you would expect, but fell into the early part of the session and could not fill the gap. So we do have some divergence here between high yield and equities. Equities seem to be quite a bit stronger than high yield. This divergence to me says that the rally that we got today is probably just the second portion of a bigger topping formation. Usually you would want to see high yields making new highs along with the rest of the markets, similar to what we saw throughout the previous rally, high yields going higher. But right now we do have divergence here and we couldn't fill the gap on high yields the way that we did across the SPY, the NASDAQ, and the IWM. Moving over to TLT, not a lot to add here. Gap down, fell throughout the session. Kind of found a little bit of support down at 106, 106.15, somewhere in this area. Did fill that gap previously, so we gapped up, gapped down. So we have a previous gap fill here. And at this point, you would expect it to come back up and fill this previous gap. Maybe it's going to do that same kind of feel, just a little bit delayed. A little bit of weakness, double top, and then maybe we get that continuation down. But at this point, the structure is a little bit more broken, and you do have to be a little bit more cautious to really either direction at this point on TLT. Moving over to the VIX, definitely worth paying attention to here. Fell throughout the session, as you would expect, but here into the latter part of the session, pretty much from the 10 o'clock candle on, we saw a little bit of strength into the close, which is interesting considering that the markets were still rising really aggressively into the close. But the VIX finding a little bit of support and seems to be moving a little bit higher. Definitely interesting based on the strength of the rally that we had. If you did expect that rally to hold and get a continuation, you would want the VIX to continue to fall. And that's certainly possible. Maybe we go sideways and sell off once again, kind of like we did here. But right now, we do have a little bit of positive momentum on the VIX. And you would want to see that fail before you got in long once again if you do think we're going to go higher. Moving over to my accounts, I pretty much got dunked on throughout the day. I was short going into the day, and I tried to double down on that a little bit. I thought the rally was going to break down multiple times, but it just didn't do that. It kept rallying super aggressively, and I lost a lot of money, and I closed all of my positions. I'm going to wait for the market to give me a little bit more direction. Like I said, could be a topping pattern, could be a breakout at this point. Definitely looks like it could go either way. And I want to be a little bit patient here before I establish new positions. So yeah, lost a little bit more than 2%. Not a great day. Like I said, I was short, so the market rallied more than 2%, and you would expect me to lose about 2%, and that's about what happened. Let me know down in the comment section what you think the markets are going to do going into next week. Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.